Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today let's go over the market. Let's go over Tesla. Bit of a weird day today, so we'll discuss that as well. But as usual, if you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button as it does help a lot. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. The link is down below if you're interested, where I share my intraday thoughts on Tesla and updates on the charts as it's moving throughout the day for $3 a month. The link is below if you're interested. If not, let's move on. Tesla, unfortunately, closing in the red with a bit of a kind of all over the place day, right? We started fairly red. I mean, kind of roughly where we closed out, honestly, not that much more red than this. And then we went green about 1% or so, which was looking great. Fortunately, we approached that 250 resistance that I called out to my members. Can't remember where it was somewhere around here. I think it was this one, yeah. We're entering that 250 turbulence, right? You can see a nice little green little bar that we had. This was, about 5 hours ago, right? Somewhere around early, like just before noon or around noon, something like that. And then unfortunately, we did get a pretty decent rejection and we did end up closing red regardless. But with that being said, you have to take it all into consideration of how the market performed, with of course SPY and QQQ being down about 1.4%, which for them is, a fairly red day, right? That's a decent red day for the market. So Tesla only performing actually arguably even better than the index is actually, a pretty respectable outperformance. So, you have to take that into consideration, right? Imagine if the market was up 1.4%, right? How Tesla would perform today would have been probably a lot better, right? But regardless, Tesla holding up really well, showing its strength today, which is great to see. And we are most importantly holding around that 240 level to as low as about 239, which is where that 100-day moving average is. I mean, it's pretty much at 240 actually at this point. It's 239.99. It's pretty much 240. So that's the level that I think is extremely important to hold, right? That's the most important level to hold. And as long as we're holding that, I am short-term bullish. However, with that being said, we do have a double resistance above us this time, which unfortunately we snapped right through not that long ago, which of course is the 50-day moving average and the 21 EMA. So essentially what you want to do is pretty much zoom in. And then this is the most important thing for now to look at. We have this 100-day moving average yellow line under us right here. And of course, we have the yellow kind of gold line up here, which is the 21 EMA. And then we have the kind of orange brownish looking line, which is the 50-day moving average, right? So those are the most important things, and we're going to be kind of ping-ponging between them most likely for now until we finally pick a direction. Now, with that being said, SPY, is approaching the bottom of this overall channel. So this could be a potential for some form of bounce, which would be great for Tesla. QQQ as well, approaching a support. You can see, did I say resistance? I meant to say support in case I said resistance. But nonetheless, QQQ also approaching a nice little king support, an area that, had obviously support and resistance before. We bounced off of this rough area before, and same as right now, we're potentially getting a bounce from here as well. So, there could be a bit of a bounce coming in for the markets here. So just take that into account, because of course that can affect Tesla and can give Tesla that little bit of a bounce, right? Now, with that being said, again, like I said, fairly short term, I am more bullish than bearish. Obviously, I'm still overall skeptical. I'm not like overwhelmingly bullish, right? In fact, I am selling calls. So for instance, thankfully, I did sell some calls on this pump earlier today. Again, almost at the top, but not at the top. I wish it was literally at the top. I wish I could say that, but it wasn't. But nonetheless, I am being still cautious, right? I'm not overwhelmingly bullish. I am still selling some calls against the shares that I own. I still have a bit more to sell in case we do get the pump to where I think we will, which is around 255 or so, maybe 260 even. Because even if we do go up there, which I think right now is the target, around 255, maybe even 260, I don't think we'll go much higher than that. It's possible. It's absolutely possible. I'm not really confident that it'll happen soon, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't think we're going to be off to the races. I don't think we're going to be skyrocketing to like all-time highs or even into 300s. Like I said many times before, anytime soon. We can. Obviously, some news can come out, some major catalysts can come out. But based on the way the market's looking, I don't think it's going to be a skyrocket anytime soon. I do think, at the very least, there'll be a sideways, few weeks or so, maybe even most of October for the most part too, right? If not down. But very short term, again, I personally wouldn't be surprised if at the very least we'll come up to around 255, retest a 50-day moving average, like actually retested the 21 EMA, maybe go up to 260. But again, like I said, all that to me will tell me is the fact that we're potentially setting up a head and shoulders pattern right here, right? We have the left shoulder right here. I talked about this, I believe, yesterday's video. We have the head up here, and then of course, if we go up to about 255 to 260, will be the right shoulder, and that of course is going to be a little bit of a bearish pattern, and that's not really what you want to be seeing, right? Obviously, the bulls want to break above 260. That'll be very good for the bulls, but the bears really want to defend that 255 to 260 level for this to remain, or I guess for the possibility of the bearish possibility, I guess, to really play through, and for this head and shoulders pattern to still, hold weight and, come to fruition potentially as well. So take that into account, right? That's very important to understand. Now, the one thing that we're potentially setting up here that I'm noticing right now, which I'm not potentially liking, there is some potential for this to be a bit of a bear flag. So for instance, if we do something like this, and then if we do something like this, right, there is potential for this right here that we're setting up to be a bear flag, something like this as well, which, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we still have a fourth touch point potential to come up all the way somewhere around 255, which is still very possible. And then 5, unfortunately. So for instance, it could be like this, right? So we came down to it, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we come back down, right? This is also a possibility, which takes me to that 255 level, maybe even as close as 260, but probably closer to 255, which of course is where that 50-day moving average and the 21 EMA is, which is a possibility, right? So that can of course also happen. So I would be kind of eyeballing this for now, you know, and seeing how this actually plays out. But, you know, again, I am personally selling calls into any of these pumps, but with that being said, on top of everything else, we also have the MACD still looking bearish, obviously on the daily, the RSI still looking weak. So overall, the momentum isn't there, which is why I don't think, even if we get this small pump to 255, I don't think we're off to the races. I don't think this is going to be a rocket, you know, to like all-time highs or even 300s. I think it'll be a bit of a bull trap. I think we'll come back down. I think there'll be a lot of sideways action, and I think there'll be a little bit of bleeding as well. And worst case scenario, I think there's a chance that we come down to about 230 as well. But like, I don't. We'll see. We'll take one step at a time. Now, of course, the ultimate bearish scenario is, of course, this, you know, massive bear flag still playing out. If this plays out, Tesla will be coming back down to about the mid 150s. Is it going to happen? No one knows. Obviously, you want to wait for confirmation. It's a possibility. Doesn't mean it has to happen, right? So take that into account. But with that being said, let me remove this for now. With that being said, though, Tesla is looking on the weekly, potentially setting up an inverted head and shoulders. So there is obviously, this is why it's important to like take into account all these different possibilities and which one seems to be the most probable, because there's a lot of different perspectives you can have, right? So this is another perspective, right? So one we just said is the bearish side, where this is essentially just a massive bear flag, can play out if we fall out, especially pretty much below like 220, 225, 220, something like that, right? This bear flag is probably going to start playing out, right? But on the flip side, we also have the head right here. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's try that one. There's no drawing feature here, which is one thing I wish Spider or Transpider would add. So this is the head, right? We have the head right here, right? We have the potential left shoulder right here. And then of course, can I copy paste? No, you can. And then of course we have the right shoulder potentially right here, something like this, right? Just keep that in mind, right? This is definitely a possibility, right? Nice little head section over here, right? This whole area over here, nice head section. Then we have, of course, the left shoulder, right? Bounced off pretty much the exact same level the right shoulder bounced off, which is something I personally like to see. It's a nice, beautiful looking inverted head and shoulders, which is bullish on the weekly. The main thing you want to look at for this to execute is going to be the neckline essentially, which is going to be somewhere around this 300 level. You can even make an argument that it's a little bit lower. Like you can make an argument that it's something like this instead, which is still pretty close to 300, right? Like minimum 270, like, and that's like kind of being lenient with it, honestly. Minimum 270 for this to really potentially have a chance to play out, but I would say safe to be extra safe about 300, honestly. Something like that, right? But, you know, this is another perspective, right? This could be a very, very extremely bullish inverted head and shoulder setting up on the weekly. It just needs confirmation, just as is potential bear flag. So you want to be taking all these things into consideration and also just kind of waiting for, again, a confirmation, right? So that's going to be the main things I'll be looking at on a much longer time frame. This, of course, will take weeks, literally weeks, if not maybe even a few months to play out and to really find some confirmation. But up until we do, of course, I think it'll be essentially just up and down zigzags, and for the most part really kind of going sideways, maybe bleeding ever so slightly, but for the most part it'll just going to be people buying options just losing to theta slowly but surely, and people that are selling options I think will benefit overall, because again, I don't think we're running off to the races anytime soon. But that's the main thing I'm looking at. Now, taking a look at options flow very quickly, we have a nice little change of pace here. So I showed my options flow to my members here not too long ago, right? About 4 hours ago. You can see pretty bearish, and this is before that massive drop actually started. And then thankfully it did actually change, right? So that drop obviously happened, and now it's flipping to being a little bit more bullish, but nothing too concise, right? We have one decent bearish position here, about 2 million in premium 225 puts expiring September 24th or September 20th of 2024 rather. And then we have another one here, pretty much the same premium, expiring 140 calls in the money, right? Very, very safe, but it's expiring December of this year, right? 15th of December. So decent calls, decent premium, right? Quite a lot of premium here for sure, but it's a very safe call, and it's not something that's extremely bullish, right? Usually if it's out of the money, that's bullish. If it's not out of the money, then that's a little bit less bullish. So just keep that in mind, right? It's a very safe call. So I wouldn't put too much weight into it, honestly, but we'll see how it plays out. This is probably just like a short-term bounce play, honestly, if I had to take a guess. But that's kind of what I am seeing right there. Unfortunately, there's not much to say on the other indicators, right? We have the volume profile, which unfortunately we snapped right through, but now we're potentially going back up into it. And so far finding a bit of resistance, with the major one being, of course, around that 255 level, which is where I think we'll find the resistance, which of course coincides with the 50-day moving average and the 21 EMA, which we somehow just blasted right under or right through to the downside, which was very surprising, very unfortunate as well, because that didn't act like as a support almost at all, which is very surprising and very not what you want to be seeing as a bull, unfortunately. But one thing that's interesting here is the TTM squeeze, which I'll be updating my members on now that I noticed it. I didn't realize it was here. I think it just showed after the daily candle closed, but it is showing a red circle. You can see right over here. This is very, very interesting, because whenever it shows these red circles, that implies that it is squeezing. It is building up pressure. It is building up momentum. It is building up movements. And this usually takes some time. It's not going to happen right away. It might take about a week or so at least, right? You can see here, there's like 4 circles, 5 here, like pretty much like 2.5, maybe 3 weeks over here. So it can take a lot of time to really, really build up. But this is something we're going to start looking at it closely, and this can slowly start dictating the direction of the move if you also take into account which of these bars it decides to show. So we'll slowly watch this. I'll slowly update you guys on this. I'll be updating my members pretty much as I see any changes as well. But yeah, that's something important to pay attention to as well. This little squeeze indicator right here, because this usually signals a decent move on its way. It's just we're not there yet. We're preparing still. The pressure is just started to build, and it'll take some time to really fully unleash. But with that being said, that's kind of what I am seeing right now. So let me know what you think down below. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. And as usual, I'll see you for the next one. Until then, peace. Actually, one thing quickly, the VIX is breaking out, which could be pretty bad for the market. So keep that in mind. The VIX is looking like it's breaking out. Could be a little bit bad, but we'll see. We'll see. But either way, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.